Hey everyone. You know that phrase that's been making rounds in the XRP community for years? XRP can't be cheap. And honestly, I'm right there with you on this one. While I don't think XRP will stay dirt cheap forever, I'm also not here to throw around those wild, unrealistic price predictions we see floating around. But here's what I do believe. XRP is going to get expensive. Really expensive. And it's going to follow a similar path to Bitcoin. Except, here's the kicker. It's going to be on steroids. Think about it for a second. Bitcoin's incredible journey to where it is today happened purely because of retail investors getting excited, speculating, and creating this massive network effect through buying, selling, and trading. That's it. Just hype and speculation. Now, picture this same scenario, but with XRP. We get all of that same retail energy and network effect, plus something Bitcoin doesn't have. Real-world utility. And here's the thing, we honestly don't even know yet just how powerful utility-driven network effects can be for digital assets. But if we're using Bitcoin as our baseline, I think we can safely assume that adding utility is going to supercharge those price drivers in ways we haven't seen before. Alright, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about with some recent developments that are absolutely game-changing. So check this out. Bank XRP just shared some incredible news. Ripple has officially expanded their licensed payment activities in Singapore, and they got the green light from none other than the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Why should you care about this? Because this literally unlocks regulated cross-border payments, digital asset transfers, stablecoin infrastructure, and institutional settlement, all happening in one of the most trusted financial jurisdictions on the planet. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. More clarity, more utility, and most importantly, more real adoption. XRP was literally built for moments like this. I've been saying this move was absolutely massive when it first happened, and I stand by that. This isn't just another announcement. This is Ripple clearing a direct path to those huge use cases we've all been talking about for years. This builds on top of the utility that XRP already had, and it gives both XRP and Ripple even more regulatory clarity. These are the kinds of moves that actually matter for XRP's future in a big way. But wait, there's more. On the 25th, Reese Merrick dropped some serious insights about Ripple's acquisition of Hidden Road, now called Ripple Prime. Get this, Hidden Road was already serving institutional customers and clearing a mind-blowing $3 trillion across all markets every single year. Let that sink in for a moment. $3 trillion. And now, Ripple just became the first crypto-native company to actually own a global multi-asset prime brokerage. We're talking FX, digital assets, derivatives, fixed income, you name it, they've got it covered. The results are already showing. We've seen significant growth since they announced this. And here's the best part. XRP and RLUSD are going to be used as collateral for institutional clients. The institutional era just got a major upgrade, folks. When you step back and look at all these moves Ripple has been making, there's one clear pattern. Everything centers around XRP and RLUSD. This leads us to one inevitable conclusion. The demand for XRP, its utility, and its overall value are going to keep evolving and increasing because of these strategic moves. Now, I'll be honest with you, we're not seeing massive XRP utilization just yet. But here's what I think is going to happen. As we get more regulatory clarity like what we're seeing in Singapore, the actual utilization of XRP is going to start picking up in a big way. When you have an asset with this much real-world utility backing it up, combined with increasing institutional adoption and regulatory clarity, the pieces are all falling into place for something pretty special. The question isn't if XRP will become expensive, it's when and by how much. And based on what we're seeing right now, that timeline might be shorter than we think. Once we start seeing this utility actually kick in, here's what's going to happen. The network effect is going to grow like crazy. And when that happens, we're also going to see this multiplier effect on the value side increase dramatically. Brad Garlinghouse said something really important back on November 6th that I think perfectly captures where we are right now. He said regulatory headwinds are now tailwinds, and talked about scaling liquidity and institutional partnerships for the next phase of crypto adoption. And you know what? He's absolutely right.
I think the inevitable march of pursuit of these technologies can't be stopped. You had Gary Gensler out there pontificating about how the crypto is the Wild West. You're like, that is the furthest thing from the truth. Like, the people I knew were trying to give us clear rules, help us understand those rules, and don't just sue us without actually providing that guidance. And so, it took a while, but we're finally in a happier place. The idea that there's one internet doesn't really make sense. I think Ripple's always tried to champion, if crypto does well, that's gonna probably be really good for Ripple. And so we've invested almost $3 billion in other crypto initiatives. Now, some of those are XRP specific. Some of those are limited partners in funds that support lots of different things. But we think if crypto does well, it's good for us. And it's part of the reason you alluded to this, but we felt it was so important to fight the fight with the SEC and the last administration because it was important for crypto. And if somebody didn't fight that fight, that was going to be bad for our industry.
You guys are the original dad, right? You are the original company that owns a bunch of tokens, right?
Yes. I think what we have found is it makes sense to have anchor players within an ecosystem. We are the most interested party in XRP's success. We care immensely about the vibrancy, the utility, the liquidity of the XRP ecosystem. But the nice thing is the breadth of participants in the XRP ecosystem has changed dramatically. And so we want to build products and services that customers love and are happy to pay for and have the symbiotic relationship of driving liquidity in the XRP ecosystem. If the largest economy in the world goes from headwinds to tailwinds, I think we are underpriced that shift. And I think that'll play out over the 6, 12, 18 months.
Here's something that I think people are massively underestimating right now. The United States, the world's largest economy, has completely flipped the script. We've gone from a super hostile environment for crypto to having one of the world's biggest players not just accepting crypto, but actually putting a massive spotlight on it. I honestly think we're severely underpricing this shift. It's not going to happen overnight, sure. We're probably looking at the next 6, 12, maybe 18 months for this to really play out. But over time, we're going to see everything around crypto improve dramatically. We're talking about adoption from major institutional players, massive capital flows, regulatory clarity. Everything in this market is about to become incredibly bullish. And I think it's amazing to see Brad Garlinghouse highlighting this too, because it's crystal clear that things have improved massively over the last 12 months. We're just waiting for the price action to catch up and prove it to us. Now, the big focus here is institutional players, institutional partnerships, institutional use, institutional value. And this brings us back to something David Schwartz said way back in 2017 that people still don't fully understand. He said, XRP can't be dirt cheap. That doesn't make any sense. Let me break down his logic for you because it's brilliant. If XRP costs $1 and someone needs to move $1 million, they'd need 1 million XRP, which would cost exactly $1 million. But if XRP costs $1 million, they'd only need 1 XRP, which would still cost $1 million. But here's the key part that most people miss. Higher prices actually make payments cheaper. Think about it like this. Right now, you can buy $1 million house with Bitcoin. But back when Bitcoin was only $300, trying to move that much value would have moved the market way too much and been way too expensive to be practical. So higher prices actually make large payments more efficient and cheaper to execute. Now, this doesn't mean XRP is going to hit $1 million or $100,000 or even $1,000 tomorrow. But what it does mean is that as we start seeing more and more high-value use cases being targeted, which is exactly what's happening with this acquisition we talked about, the price has to go up. We're talking about FX markets, derivatives, institutional settlement. These are massive, high-value industries. And once we start targeting these markets and seeing trillions upon trillions of dollars moving through these networks, the value of the underlying asset has to be higher. Why? Because to move that amount of money efficiently, you need the asset to have sufficient value. Otherwise, like David Schwartz pointed out, it would affect the market too much and become impractical. So what value can we actually put on XRP? Here's the honest truth. Nobody knows. Nobody. I've been seeing price predictions for years now. $10, $100, $1,000. But the reality is, nobody truly knows where this is headed. But here's what we absolutely do know. XRP is positioned better than almost any other asset in this space. Big shout out to vet_x0 for sharing these incredible video clips from a recent AMA with David Schwartz. Listen to what David said about their technology. Our technology was uniquely positioned for an asset exchange. The leadership consensus algorithm of the XRP ledger, no dictator of the moment, made Arthur Britto come up with the very first DEX in crypto.
And Arthur mostly realized that you could have an asset exchange, that you didn't want to have an asset exchange if you had a block producer, because the block producer could reorder transactions to their advantage. They could not, if there was some offer that was at a price that turned out to be too high or too low because the asset price moved, the person who produced the block could take that profit for themselves. They might not let you cancel an offer. They might let you place only the best offers for them and then take them and insert their own transaction to take them. So we realized in 2012 that because you could not do that, our technology was uniquely suitable for an asset exchange. And so we took some inspiration from some work that Ryan Fugger did back in 2004. We created issued assets, which were basically the first stable coins. We created the first DEX with what we now call the DEX. And we built a sort of multi-asset ledger.
Did you catch all those "we created the first" moments in that clip? This is exactly what sets Ripple and XRP apart from everything else in this space. This wasn't an afterthought. XRP was uniquely positioned for this from day one. And here's something else that really got my attention. David Schwartz talking about smart contracts on the XRP ledger. His approach is absolutely brilliant. He said, we don't need full-purpose smart contracts. We don't need to be the better or the best smart contract platform. Just a little bit of programmability via smart contracts. It boosts native features. If you can't connect native features together, they are not as useful. His strategy is all about safety and taking small, measured steps. No full-blown programmability that could create security risks, but careful, strategic moves toward the goal. This gives them the best real-world feedback possible.
I do think Ripple probably should have prioritized smart contracts at layer 1 sooner. We didn't. We were more skeptical, and I think the big thing that we missed was that small steps would be useful. That we didn't have to be the best platform for smart contracts, and people would still be able to use those smart contracts both to distinguish their features, implement their business logic, and to tie existing features together. You know, an AMM is great, but if it's not connected to anything else, it's not as great. It's nice to be able to sort of connect things together with business logic, distinguish functions. You know, because today, developers, if they want to build in the XRP ledger space, they either have to build XRP ledger features, which has a massive barrier to entry, and then, get them accepted by amendment, which is, extremely difficult. And it has to be something with mass appeal, or basically all they can build are wallets and user interfaces. Now, wallets and user interfaces are important, but it's hard to build a business around a wallet or a user interface. And if you can distinguish your actual financial products on chain, that makes it, a much better experience and a much better platform for them to develop on.
Because of how limited and carefully designed smart contracts like XLS 101 are, they can allow for a huge number of amendments without requiring major protocol changes. That's a massive win for protocol security, and that matters for everyone using the XRP ledger, whether you're a major bank or just a regular user. When you step back and look at all of these developments, all the amendments, all the major upgrades to the XRP ledger, it's all building toward one massive goal: institutional grade adoption and use. We're talking about institutional DeFi becoming a reality around the XRP ledger. All of this is going to significantly impact the network effect around XRP. And honestly, I think this is where a lot of people are completely missing the big picture. Because even today, we still have people obsessing over market cap this, market cap that. Here's the thing. We are so early in this space that everyone is going to get this wrong. I'm going to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong. Even the so-called experts in this space are going to get it wrong. Why? Because I genuinely believe everyone is still massively undervaluing what we have in front of us. When we talk about building the new financial system, we're not talking about small numbers here. We're talking about tokenizing hundreds of trillions of dollars. Let that sink in for a moment. This is something completely unique, something completely different from anything we've seen before. The opportunity here isn't just massive, it's unprecedented. Yet, like I said, so many people are still overlooking what we have right in front of us. And there's one more thing I absolutely have to share with you, because it perfectly illustrates just how big this is getting. There's this incredible video clip from Marcus Imfinger that really drives the point home. This is from Deep Son, and what he says is absolutely mind-blowing. The XRP ledger is entering a new era. Ripple's RLUSD will serve as prime collateral on Hidden Road, evolving XRP ledger from a payments network into an institutional DEFI settlement layer. From payments to credits, collateral mobility, and repo markets.
And if I think about it through the lens of, the XRP ledger, and tangentially including RLUSD, Ripple's US dollar stablecoin. So first of all, RLUSD will act as sort of like the prime collateral on the Hidden Roads platform, and the XRPL will really evolve into a settlement layer for part of their existing business around collateral mobility and things like repo markets. And if you think about it this way, XRPL has mainly been or dominantly been known as like the chain for payments in a short narrative, and this really will help expand the XRPL to be a broad-based institutional DeFi chain that will not only facilitate or have key differentiation around payments, but also around credit, collateral mobility, and other areas around institutional DeFi.
Well, I love that. That's very, very exciting.
I don't know about you, but when I hear employees from Ripple talking about what XRP and the XRP ledger are evolving into, all I can think about is network effects. Because those network effects are going to lead to increased volume and increased value. Here's the thing. We have examples of what network effects can do. Look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. Both have experienced massive network effects over time. But here's what we haven't seen yet. A utility network effect. This is where things get really exciting. This is where that price multiplier I mentioned earlier comes into play. We're going to see the value of XRP multiply not just from people buying, selling, and trading XRP, but because of the actual utility side of XRP. As the utilization of the XRP ledger increases through institutional DeFi initiatives, and it becomes the settlement layer for institutional players, that immediately changes everything. Every price target, every price prediction anyone has made, you can throw them out the window. I genuinely believe this is going to completely shock everyone when we see what happens when you bring in that level of institutional capital and actual use. It's going to be so significant that it's going to drive mass adoption of the technology as well. And here's the key. Institutional players and enterprise players are the real drivers of mass adoption. When they move, everything changes. One thing is crystal clear when we hear from all these Ripple employees, CEOs, and former CTOs. They're all saying the same thing. With increased adoption and increased use, we're going to see a much higher value for XRP. But on top of that, we're seeing incredible developments happening around the XRP ledger all at the same time. We're talking about targeting new asset classes, increased adoption, institutional DeFi becoming reality. All of these things are happening simultaneously. We've talked about network effects, but what about a complete waterfall of utility becoming reality as well? This is going to impact XRP in an incredibly positive way. Just like Brad Garlinghouse said, this could take 6, 12, maybe 18 months to fully play out. But you know what? It doesn't matter. We waited out that lawsuit for well over 4 years. We can definitely wait out utility becoming reality and institutional adoption hitting peak levels. We can wait that out because what's coming is going to be absolutely worth it in the long run. The pieces are all falling into place. The institutional infrastructure is being built, and the regulatory environment has completely shifted in our favor. This isn't just about price predictions anymore. This is about XRP potentially becoming the backbone of the new financial system. So that's a wrap on today's analysis. If you found this breakdown helpful and you're as excited about XRP's future as I am, definitely smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these important updates. The XRP story is just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.